Greetings, good people. Listen, today I am out here talking to the men. I'm talking to the men today. I want to have a nice conversation with the guys and any other women who want to join in because I want to share some interesting insights with you guys. I want you guys to really begin to tune into this conversation on emotions because I think that it's important for us as men and women to really be able to have these conversations together. So, let's talk about this topic on how men can begin to limit your discomfort with women's emotions and our expression of emotions. Now, listen, okay? I know how it is out here, fellas. I know how, we are out here as women and we do what we do. We express, we talk, we do all the things when it comes to emotions. And I still see so many men that are just like either like really uncomfortable with women and our emotions, and there's still this like negative stigma around like women and how we express our emotions and how we're so emotional, and that time of the month, and all that stuff. Like, you guys already know how this goes, right? So I wanted to clear that up because I'm doing some work now focusing a little bit more on men, which I find to be quite interesting because I have found some really interesting statistics and research that I've been doing on men and emotions. And so let's talk about this because I think this is really important for us to be able to kind of improve our relationships with one another. And I think it's important for men if you want to be able to improve your relationship with women because a lot of men I do see from experience go into relationships already kind of with this like idea that like, oh, women are going to be so emotional, and I'm going to have to deal with all her issues and all her problems, and yada yada yada. And I think that, again, we need to get to the bottom of this. So here's what the research has been showing. The research shows that, surprisingly, when it comes to men and women and our emotions, women actually are not more emotional than men, surprisingly. The research is showing that we are actually equally very emotional creatures, which does not surprise me, right? Because we're both human. But in other words, what it's saying is that we are equal in terms of our ability to, feel and experience and, express, right? Well, not express, but to experience. We equally experience emotions in a very similar capacity. What's different, though, about us as men and women is the way that we regulate. So, men, in the studies that they've done, were way more likely to regulate through action. So, they feel something and they're way more likely to take action as a result of that. So that could be, going for a walk. That could be, hitting something, fighting. I'm not saying all men are violent. I'm not trying to put that out there, but those are just examples, right? So men are way more likely to regulate their emotion when they feel something by taking action. Women, on the other hand, okay, we, as you guys know, are way more likely to regulate through verbalizing. And so that is why there's this stereotype that like we're so much more emotional. And it's really not necessarily that we're more emotional. It's just that because we have a tendency to regulate through verbalizing, it's easier for us to kind of, or for anybody to identify when we are working with or expressing or dealing with some kind of emotion. For men, because you guys typically will regulate through taking action, it's not always easy for us to identify when someone's being emotional. So it's more so about our ability to identify when someone is, regulating emotion. And because women tend to verbalize more, it's easier for us to say, hey, look at them being so, whatever, whatever, right? So this is what's really going on, number one. And I think from what, I've researched again, I think when it comes to men and their discomfort, your discomfort with our emotions, a lot of that is simply because, again, men have been socialized to suppress and to keep stuff in. And it's like, the whole experience that you're going through is a different experience because you have to really consider what is socially acceptable when you are expressing. So, the way that men can become more comfortable with women's expression of emotion is to, first of all, recognize that we are both equally experiencing emotions at a very similar rate and capacity, but we're regulating them differently. Now, I will say that, I totally do understand why this can be challenging for some men, for a lot of men, really, because as it relates to women and men, I think that, collectively, we both have different areas where we definitely can improve in order for us to have more mastery over our emotions. And so, with women, generally speaking, like collectively, we definitely can improve more on being a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? Disciplined with the way that we are dealing with our emotions, because because we're a lot more comfortable expressing and verbalizing, we tend to kind of use our words in ways that can be very harmful. And I do see that. I've personally seen that, and I've personally done that. If I'm being honest, of course I've done that, and I've had to catch myself on many occasions. So because, like I said, we tend to verbalize more, it is important for us to learn how to be a lot more disciplined with the way that we use our words and the way that we verbalize. So, yeah, that's the area of improvement for women. And I think that's one reason for sure why men can sometimes be uncomfortable with the expression. But the other reason why men can sometimes be uncomfortable with women's expression of emotion is because many men have been socialized to suppress their own. And so when a woman shows up and she's just fully expressing all this stuff, men are sometimes uncomfortable because they have not really given a voice to their own emotion, which is a problem because it's not necessarily healthy. Sometimes detachment is the answer, sometimes it's not. Sometimes discipline is the answer, sometimes it's not. And so a lot of that discomfort is, I think, like I said, men's challenge and struggle with expressing because society has not allowed them to do that, or society has not created um, a culture that makes it easy for them to allow themselves to do that. So some of that again is, the areas where men probably could use some more help improving in that particular area. And so we both have work to do. It's not a matter of one is a problem and the other is not a problem. We both have work to do. But ultimately, when it comes to emotions, we don't need to be afraid of them. We just need to understand them, and the reason why is because we all have them. There's never a time in your life where you are not operating in an emotion. There's never a time in your life where you are not working with some kind of emotion. So the key ultimately for all of us is emotional mastery. And that is the kind of work that I do. I help people to master their emotions. Specifically, I'm really working a lot closer with men because that is, I think, a great opportunity for men to be able to begin improving their relationships with women and to have a better understanding of what's really going on with emotion. So there's so many myths out there. There's so many things that need to be cleared up because there's a lot of stigma around this concept of emotion and what's really going on. So I want to be able to help people clear that up. I want people to have a healthier relationship and a greater appreciation for their emotions. I want people to master their emotions because ultimately that's how you're going to improve that relationship. And when you begin the process of mastering your own emotions, not just emotions themselves, but your emotions, because your experience with emotions is very personal, that's when you begin to leverage them, to use them to work for you versus against you. And that's when you can develop that confidence around, anybody else. Like, I've gotten to a point now in my life where, as I've been doing this work, I can see how, like, situations that I used to run away from in the past that were like very emotionally charged. Nowadays, it's like I can go into those situations and I'm like so much more calm because I'm like, yes, now I know that even though this is an emotionally charged situation, I can get through it. When people come around that have a lot of fiery, reactive energy, people that don't necessarily exercise as much discipline and control, I'm not as concerned like I used to be. I'm not as anxious as I used to be because I know that it's like I'm way more in control of my own emotions. Any of the issues that we have with other people and their emotions is naturally always a reflection of our own and this fear that we can't control our own. So it's not that we really ever have issues with other people. It's that when these people come up or come into our lives, we secretly fear that we're not going to be able to control ourselves around them. And so most of the work is usually going to be again on yourself. And that's why I do work around emotional mastery. Okay. So I have another video that I'm going to be sharing about, the difference between my work versus psychotherapist work and just getting into why I do this work around emotional mastery. But if you are interested and you want some support with beginning this process of mastering your own emotions so that you won't be so bothered by everybody else around you, so that you won't be so concerned about what's going on with everybody else, and so that you have more control over your emotional experiences, feel free to reach out to me. I do offer coaching sessions with people. I can help you to navigate those emotional experiences so that you can learn more about yourself through the process, allowing you to achieve that mastery and navigate those challenging emotionally charged situations. I also have a 8-week coaching program that I have for men called Master Your Emotions, which is really all about you being able to utilize your emotions to work for you versus against you so that you can leverage them to be more successful, improve your relationship with women, and to connect better with other people. So, if any of that is interesting to you, you can click on the link or you can visit this website that you see here on this banner, NigeaInspires.com/wellness coaching, and you'll see all of the details about my coaching program. You could also schedule a personal coaching session with me if you want to chat about an emotionally charged situation you're dealing with and you want some help navigating it. And we are going to be talking about this, for a while because I have a lot of good, interesting things to share with you. So I'm really excited about that. And I would love to chat with you about this topic.